The competition throwing Hawks from the World Axe Throwing League were awesome. Man, I chucked these things for distance. Let me show you. Almost at 100 feet. The World Axe Throwing League Competition Hawks. How cool are these? Or maybe not. Let's talk about them. Let's do it. Welcome back to Midgard Axe. I am Wes, the Suburban Viking.
I am Dave, smart ass extraordinaire.
And we're getting into the World Axe Throwing League Competition Throwing Hawks. Now, as you guys know, in a previous video, I told you that going from now until probably fall time, I'm going to start doing reviews and testing axes out that I think would make great flyers for long distance axe throwing.
Axes that are worth a damn.
I'm going for the world record for the longest axe throw, and I need to get some more axes because I want to be able to throw a bunch of them when I attempt to beat the record. The World Axe Throwing League Competition Throwing Hawks were the axes that the current world record holder used to break the record. The sheath that comes with these is really cool. It's similar to the Ned Foss sheaths, and I'll put some pictures up now. Basically, all three of these axes will go into the sheath. They've got some Velcro tabs with some snaps on them, so that way you can carry all three into the same sheath, which is really cool. You don't have to worry about losing sheaths or whatever, because you got one solid sheath there to put them all in. Really cool, really cool. And of course, guys, what do we do with sheaths on this channel? We toss them. We don't need them anymore. Getting into these things. So as Dave said, they're 12.5 inches long, and they're weighing in at 1 pound and 1.7 ounces apiece. Now, I will say I got onto the World Axe Throwing League website and looked at the specs on it after I threw them, because I didn't know much about them before I bought them. And there's not really anything about the steel quality or the steel type that you're getting other than alloy steel. That's what they say on their website. So there is that. They do say that they're more in line width-wise at 5 millimeters for like competition throwing knives. So there's that. My experience with these, because that's what I'm going to talk about now, is just getting into it, okay? No BS, no fluff, none of that crap. Let's just talk about them. Okay, so as you guys know, I've thrown steel axes in the past, and I have a love-hate relationship with them. These things flew really nicely at a single rotation. They really did. You can set these things up and do some crazy trick throws. You can do some really hard throws. You can just do all kinds of different things with them. However, when I first started out with them, I started out warming up with these. I wanted to take them out, just practice with these three. So I threw them into the target at a slower to moderate pace. Didn't have any issues sticking them at all. They were really nice flying. They're weighted very nicely. I didn't have any issues sticking the bit, and they just felt like that when I was setting up to throw, it was almost like a seamless release out of the hand. I've said that before about all steel axes that are similar in size to these, is that they're really good for single rotations. They just are. As I continued to progress in my throwing, I sped it up, started throwing really hard, started throwing fast. Trick throws, back spinning throws, side throws. Man, you can do a lot with these smaller all steel axes coming in at like, 13 inches and under. They're just a heck of a lot of fun to throw at a single rotation. And because of the size, you can do it in a fairly small backyard. You can even pull out probably double and triple rotations in your backyard if you don't have a lot of room because of the size. You can get a lot of rotations in a short distance, which is really cool. The square handles that they come with are not bad. I'm not a huge fan of square handles. However, I was able to make them work. They did come out of the hand very nicely. I got a very smooth release, and nothing hanging up on my hand at all, and the square handles really didn't bother me all that much, so I had a really good time throwing them. Like I said, single rotations were a lot of fun. Going back and forth between one target to the next target, that's something that you can do with these. If you have multiple targets in your yard or wherever you throw, that's where these things shine, being able to transition from one target to the next target to the next target. Or you can set up and throw all three of them in the same target. However, like I like to say, I would try to not throw one into the other because you will tear them up fairly fast. All in all, they're great flyers. They worked out really well for axe throwing, and I just had a great time with them at single rotations. The weight wasn't a big deal at all. Like I said, I thought they were going to come a little lighter than they did at 1 pound and 1.7 ounces, but when you get them in your hand, you start throwing them, you really appreciate the weight. I do prefer something a little heavier than lighter, just in my experience. I do enjoy a little bit of weight to my axes. So I did enjoy the weight that they came with. However, I will say, with having a love-hate relationship with axes, these things come handle heavy, and you're going to have a hard time trying to find steel axes that just aren't handle heavy, because most of them come that way. As you guys know, I bought these for long distance axe throwing. So after I got done at a single rotation, I said, there's no point in doing double, triple, quadruple rotations. Let's take it back almost to 100 feet. And that's exactly what I did. Now, we'll give you guys a little bit of information. Like I told you in a previous video, I think that I can judge if these things are going to fly well at 200 feet without having to go back that far. I think around 80 to 100 feet, which is where I was throwing these things at, I would get a good idea if they would fly well back at 200 feet. Between 80 to 100 feet, these things flew really well. But I will say one other thing too. Sometimes you can have axes that fly really well, single, double, triple rotations. But when you start pushing the boundaries past that and start going to like 60, 70, 80 feet, upwards to 100 feet, sometimes some axes can perform differently, which is why I don't judge axes for long distance axe throwing at a triple rotation. And when I tell you guys about axes, I say it's good for a single, double, and triple. I don't say it's good for as far back as you want to go, because I think there is a limit to some axes. Yes, some perform great at a triple rotation, and some perform great at a quadruple rotation. But sometimes when you go back to farther than that, they may not perform well. They just start getting wobble. You may not perform with them correctly, or you may not perform with them the way you want to. So when I went back to throw these for distance, my goal was to see how accurate I could be with them. I knew that I was going to miss a little bit. I knew that was going to happen. But as long as I was hitting the target, I was fine with that, because I knew I could hone in my accuracy and be able to stick the spike in the bit. As you can see here, I started getting a lot of knob strikes and head strikes where it was coming in like this and it was bouncing off the target. So I decided to move around a little bit, go up a foot or two, go back a foot or two. And I noticed that no matter what I did, I was getting a lot of spike strikes. Even if I moved up a foot or two or moved back a foot or two, I was still getting these spike strikes. And I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. I should be able to get the bit to hit. So it was like spike strike after spike strike. It was over and over and over again. So then I really needed to kind of like take a step back and go, okay, I need to adjust my arm and how fast or slow I'm throwing it. And as I kept throwing, I adjusted my throw, and then I had no issues being able to stick the bit into the target. I still did get some spike strikes here and there, but for the most part, I was able to hone in my accuracy and get bit strikes when I wanted to. And that was cool about it. These things are nasty at distance. They are extremely accurate. You don't get any curve. And that was one thing that I forgot to tell you guys. Whenever you go back to 90 feet or farther, for a right-handed thrower, the longer the axe handle, the easier it is to curve your axe. So when you set up, you kind of have to calculate that curve with a longer axe handle. And when I do the record-breaking attempt, I'm going to use the Francisca axe. And as you guys know, I can curve my axe. Sometimes you can't help it. With the way that I throwing hard, I can't help it sometimes. So I'm going to have to come out long and aim for the right side of the target so it basically curves in. With these, you don't have to worry about it because of the handle heavy weight and because of how short they are. they're tack drivers for distance. And as you guys saw at the beginning of the video, I was able to throw all 3 of these in one setting, meaning set up, throw one, hit, throw the second one, hit, throw the third one, hit, without missing. Now, there was a lot of times where I would be able to stick 2 and I'd miss my third throw. But all in all, guys, I mean, you're talking at 90-some feet, being able to throw 2 axes back to back and hit. I'd say that was a success, especially being able to throw all 3. And as you guys saw, I put my back to the target, spun around and threw. There was no running up to the target. I was planted right where I was at and able to stick these things at that distance. So I would say that's a win for me, and I do think that these things are going to be great at 200 feet. So let's go over some of the pros first. Number 1, even though these things are handle heavy, which most steel axes are, they fly really well. They fly just like the CRKT Jenny Wren and the Kova Blackthorn. Actually, to be honest with you guys, I think these fly better than the Kova Blackthorn for distance. If you guys don't know, at the beginning of the video, when I show you my intro, when I'm standing on my driveway, that's close to like 90-some feet, and I throw the Kova Blackthorn, even though I can stick it into the bullseye at that distance, you do have wobble. These don't wobble at all at the same distance. So these things fly true in the air. I will give them that. They're very nice flyers. Even for a single rotation or going all the way back to almost 100 feet, they're really true in the air. They're just tack drivers. They really are. There is no edge right here on the spike here and here, but there is a little bit of an edge back here. You could sharpen this up, but like you saw in the video, I was able to stick my spikes and I didn't even sharpen them, probably because I was hitting them really hard from distance. Now, as far as the relief cuts go that I put in there, that's really cool, I guess. I don't really care if they're in there or not. Take a little bit of weight off of them. The bits held up very nicely for missed throws and smashing really hard in the target up close, throwing for distance. I really didn't have any issues with the bits. They held up really well. And guys, I was out there for like 5 or 6 hours throwing in 105-degree heat. It was hot. I was sweating my ass off, but they're still really sharp. I mean, they're not as sharp as they were when they got to me, but they're not bad. They do have a very nice profile up top. They're nice and even. The bit's nice and even with the handle, and it's very thin. The cheeks are very thin. It's a really good sticking profile, and I had no issues sticking this thing at all. So those are pretty much all the pros that I could think of. They're just great flyers. They really are. So Dave, you had these things whizzing by your head. Tell me, what's your thoughts on them?
To be honest, I had my eyes closed for most of it. Not a big fan of seeing axes fly at my face.
Yeah, they're just great flyers, guys. They really are. But of course, nothing's perfect. And here's where my love-hate relationship comes in with all steel axes. As you guys know in a previous video, I'd said something about these things, and I'm going to throw it up here just to prove my point. Here we are. I'll do a review on it, but I feel like these things would break really easily. Now, this whole set right here is coming in at $100. It's not cheap. So keep that in mind. If you buy these, you might have to adjust these grip panels, because I think they'd probably work out very well if you did competition throws indoors, kind of just doing a single rotation at a very slower speed or moderate speed, and you don't smash these things, you'll probably be all right. But if you throw like I do, or you throw outside and you do get crazy with them, I got a feeling these things are going to break really easily. I know you're thinking, well, Wes, you probably beat the hell out of them. You probably tore them all up. Actually, I didn't. Now, let me roll in another video of me throwing these things pretty normal and showing you guys what happened. Three throws. I got 3 throws with these, and the handle already broke. Let's move the camera and see. I've thrown my CRKT Jenny Wren and my Cova Blackthorn for a long time now, probably at least a year. Those G10 grip panels are great. Haven't had any issues with them. Even taking abuse, those things are holding up. But some manufacturers are still trying to go kind of the cheap route on these grip panels, and you can't do that with all steel axes that are dedicated for axe throwing. You just can't. These things break really easily. I think even at a moderate throw like I showed you guys, I stuck the bit and the handle hit the target, even though the bit sank really deep and the handle went in there and broke off. So I think eventually your grip panels are going to break on these. They just will. I mean, I was working with them hard at distance because most of them had already started cracking and breaking before I even took them back for distance. So a lot of these breaks and cracks that I was working with didn't come from long distance axe throwing and smacking the knob or anything. It was at a single rotation, sticking the bit. And the bit was just sinking too deep and those handles were hitting the target and then breaking all the crap. The screws came out pretty fast too. I didn't put Loctite on them. Like I told you guys, I don't do that because I want to see how fast they come loose. This one right here popped off really fast. This is the one that I showed you guys in the video that broke originally. And the screws came out really fast. So there is that. Other than that, there's not really any more cons to it. There really isn't. They're great flyers. They really are. They are handle heavy, but they fly true in the air. And as you guys saw back at 90 some feet, I was sticking the bit, the spike. I was hitting it repetitively back to back, even 3 times at one or two times when I was able to. They just fly really well. Now they're coming in at like $100 some, $102, $105. Are they worth it? For me, breaking the record, they're worth it. Are they worth it for you going in your backyard and throwing? I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm a little upset that the grip panels are as cheaply made as they are and they fall apart as easy as they do. If you don't mind that and you want to get these, then get them. Like I said, they held up really well. The steel held up really well. I had no bends, no cracks, no nothing. The bits held up really well too. As you can see here, guys, most of all of them are still in line. No chips, no gouges, no nothing. They just held up really well. They really did. I got a little bit of edge rollover up at the top, but they held. They did really well. I think they held. The bits held up a little better than the Ned Foss all steel ones. I usually get edge rollover and chips and breaks on those, whereas these I didn't. So if you want to count that into the $100, you can. For me, if I was to get these to just throw in my backyard, I don't think I'd probably spend the $100 on them because I think you could find maybe some all steel axes that have better grip panels. But you have to take into account how well they fly for distance, how well they fly up close. For someone who throws axes all the time, like me, who's been through a ton of axes, knowing that these grip panels aren't the best, but I can work with them and fix them, I would spend the $100 on them again. But for someone out there like you who maybe only has a handful of throwing axes or doesn't have a ton of money to spend on throwing axes, maybe you should pass on these. It's really personal preference. I can't really tell you guys what the best axes are for you because I don't know your throwing experience and your throwing level and how often you throw axes. I would say this: if you only throw axes occasionally, maybe pass on these. If you throw axes a lot and you have a lot of throwing axes, I'd say get them. Prepare to replace the grips and fix them, but once you do, you will have a heck of a lot of fun with them. And one more thing I'll say about these is that I will say they're a little bit thicker than your cheaper or more budget all steel axes that come in this size. Like a lot of your Ned Foss all steel axes, they're a lot thinner. They're good flyers, they really are, but I'll be honest with you, when you take them outside and you throw them, they kind of feel like toys. Where these feel like actual dedicated throwing axes, and there's something else to put into your brain to think about if you care about that. That is something that I noticed when I went back and held some of the like elephant throwing axes that I got from Ned Foss. They feel kind of like toys. They're very thin, fly well, but they kind of leave you wanting more heft, more smashing of the target, whereas those hit well. But these right here, guys, will smash and smash hard because of the weight. I mean, a lot of times, guys, we were sinking all the way to here, up to the World Axe Throwing League emblem that is put on these, or logo, I should say, on these axe heads. I mean, you're sinking all the way here with a really hard throw, in line with the actual ferrule that goes down, which is some crazy penetration. So consider that too. If you care about penetration, then you might consider these two.
I always heard if you're not penetrating, you're being penetrated, like Loki.
Dave, you say some of the wildest stuff, man. He really does. The World Axe Throwing League Competition Hawks, I think for my purpose and what I'm using them for, is going to be great, and I think it's worth the money at this point, being able to throw them that far and then be tack drivers at that far. I think they're going to perform great at 200 feet. It's really up to you. If you want to spend the money, spend it. I think they're great other than the grip panels you'll have to fix. I think they're great overall, and I don't think you'll have any issues with them, at least with my experience. The bits hold up. They're weighted very well, and these things smash into the target. They really do. And the steel holds up. I can't complain other than those grip panels, guys. They're just great, flying, dedicated throwing axes. So if you're interested, check them out. Appreciate all your support, guys. Let me know in the comment section if you would spend the money on these knowing this. Would you be willing to fix the grips in order to have a good or great dedicated flying axe? I guess that's personal preference, right? Personal choice. Thanks for making this channel what it is. Consider subscribing if you're not. We got a lot of stuff coming up. It's going to be really fun, really cool. So until next time, guys, see ya. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get out of here, Dave. We got to eat. See you guys.
More like time to serve Loki a can of whoop ass.